All right, the great Bambi 42. We're here. We're at the Mode campus. I'm with the man, Brady, Bam Hiestand, UFC fighter. First things first, I guess, how you doing?
I'm doing good. I just got done with some physical therapy at the BPI, and so now we're here. Yeah, it's been going pretty good here.
Yeah, I know you've been doing a lot of rehab, recovering from an injury. Talk about the process of just trying to get back to the cage.
Yeah, so I tore my ACL and meniscus, and I think a partial tear in my MCL a week before my last fight, and so we're about 6.5 months out now. And so been working with the BPI a lot of people down at the UFC PI. It's feeling good. I'm finally able to start training again, start getting some rolls in, doing a bunch of striking, and so I'm excited to get back in there.
Hell yeah, man. I know you've already had a really good UFC career, I feel like, undefeated in the UFC. I kind of want to just take it back, for anybody who doesn't know, I guess talk about your MMA journey, talk about how you got started in the sport, and what your earliest memories are of mixed martial arts.
Yeah, so I did karate when I was a little kid, but I think the main thing that got me started was jiu-jitsu. I started that when I was 12, and I was sucked at every other sport. I was a fat, chubby kid with curly hair and glasses, and so I didn't like any other sports. I started jiu-jitsu, and I just fell in love with it. Started doing that every day, kind of became consumed with it, and then I had my first cage fight when I was 16 over at the Hub, and then started fighting on Rick's promotion, Excite Fight at Northern Quest. Yeah. Built up there, won worlds in jiu-jitsu when I was 17, and then just dove right into MMA and turned pro when I was 19.
What do you remember from your first fight?
A whole lot of nothing. I don't remember really anything. I lost, and the guy honestly isn't that good, but I lost to the guy who was 10 years older than me. I didn't have any experience. I think I'd been doing MMA for 3 months. And so I went out there and I beat him up the first round, got him down, was grappling him, and then I went out there for a double leg and I ran him into the fence. And the fence was hella springy, and so I springed him off the fence and he landed on top of me in mount. And I was just sitting there and I didn't know what to do, so I literally just covered my head and just started flailing, and they stopped the fight.
Wow.
So it was kind of a shitty first experience, but I was fuck, I never losing again. I hate losing. And so after losing that fight, I was now I got to go rattle off some wins. And it kind of got me more locked into the sport.
And I know you started, training over at Sik Jitsu. How did the transition, how did that happen? How did you start training under Rick Little?
Yeah, so I was training at this MMA, more jiu-jitsu gym. There wasn't really any good fighters out of there. I was their best fighter. I was undefeated. I was pro coming up the ranks, and I had a huge falling out with my old coach because he's kind of a dirtbag. And so I had known Rick because I had been fighting on his promotion for a while, and so when I left his gym, it was really the only thing that made sense because I'd already kind of been training over there. And then when I had that huge falling out with my old coach, where he was, and then I hit up Rick and I'm like, hey, can I come train? And he's like, yeah, come through. And so I started training there, and little did I know until a couple years later that I was training with Sam Cecilia, Mike Chiesa, and Terrence and Austin Arnett, and they were just trying to kill me every day. I just thought that's how training went at Sik, and so I would show up every day and they're just trying to take my head off, knock me out, choke me out, and luckily I was decently tough, so I didn't get hurt or anything. But yeah, come to find out a couple years later, he's like, yeah, we were trying to run you out, and I was just too dumb and too tough to leave, I guess. And so now I'm one of the guys.
Yeah, I mean, that's the initiation process, right? I feel with a lot of things, it's can we get this guy out of here, or does he really have that grit and what it takes to get to the biggest level? You said you had a falling out with your old coach. Was that Adam Smith?
Yeah.
That was your old coach? Because the fight community out here is small. Everybody kind of knows everybody. I know Adam's doing big things. He's got his own promotion going now. He's going to be having an event over at the Pavilion downtown. Anything what was the reason behind some of what happened?
I don't want to go too in depth just because it's it is what it is, but he's just a scummy businessman. If you ask anybody, he screws over his friends, and I was one of his friends at the time, so he screwed me out of a bunch of my inheritance. My dad died when I was 15, gave me some money, and he took it all and pretty much ran with it. So I'm not going to go too in depth. I don't know. But he's just a scummy businessman, shitty person, and was a drug addict at the time. So it is what it is. So you take a bunch of coke and you find a kid with some money and that you have a lot of rapport with and that trusts you a lot, and you need some money to pay off your debts and pay for some more drugs, and so that's what you do.
Damn.
And it's just one of those guys that does that, and it seems like he's doing better now. But I hear stories of him still fucking over people, so it all comes back to you in the end. And so I'm not trying to go out there and I'm not going to go and try to get my money back or whatever, but I just know karma's going to get him one day, and so let it have it.
Maybe we'll take it out. Maybe we'll leave it in. I don't know. I know the first time I met you, I think it was at a Quest show, and then I started working with Dylan Ley. Or actually, you introduced me to Dylan, right?
Yeah.
That first time I came over. I'm trying to remember the first time me and you were linking. Oh, it was because Bear was filming you at Sik.
I think the first time I met you was in our first podcast, because Bear wanted to do a podcast with me,
That's right.
And you were also there, and so that's how we actually met. Was you and Bear did a podcast, and we all three did a podcast together, and that was like the first time I met you.
It's crazy to think that was already like 3 years ago. At this point.
It was funny because I was like around the same time in recovery from my first ACL surgery.
Damn. Yeah, I know. Talk about the process of just working with Dylan Ley and, how he has, helped you rehab and your relationship with Dylan over the past couple of years.
Yeah, Dylan Ley is like one of my best friends now. Like, it started out with I posted on my Facebook after I got off the Ultimate Fighter, because I was just a guy that trained, didn't really know anything about supplements, didn't have any strength conditioning. So I posted on my Facebook, I was like, in search of a strength conditioning coach. Before my finale fight, I started working with another dude because he hit me up first, but then Mike was like, oh, my buddy Dylan Ley, he's getting into this. And so I had my fight, was working with another guy, and then as I was recovering, I found out he was a physical therapist, and so my buddy Ashton was starting to work with him, and he said he was doing really well with him. And so once I was able to start training again, I started training in Dylan's basement, and we're still training in his basement, which is, my favorite place. But yeah, we started working together, and I noticed huge changes in my body. I was never super ripped, and I was just getting more ripped, which isn't the main thing, but my explosivity was getting better. My cardio was hitting a whole nother level. And since then we literally travel the world. We go fight people, and he's become one of my best friends. He's a really cool dude. Yeah,
shout out Dylan Ley. I know he was working with Kiesa. Kiesa was one of his first guys he worked with. Now he's working with Kai Stewart in Dubai, chilling with Conor McGregor. It's so crazy to look at. I feel like he manifested all of this. He said, one day I'm going to be in the room with these big name guys, and everything has come to fruition. Hard work, dedication, and literally you can get anywhere, and he's proven that.
100%.
What's your relationship with Kai Stewart now? And Kai, multi-time featherweight champion over at BKFC, just fought in Dubai. How has it been training with him, and what's your relationship like with him? Yeah, Dylan kind of linked us together because he was training with Kai Stewart, because they're both they both went to college in Montana and stuff like that, and so I started training with Kai. Obviously, no grappling, but we do some boxing rounds together. So we've helped each other, and he helped me in my last camp. I've helped him in a few of his camps, and yeah, it's really cool having him around just because he's big personality, ultra confident, and he's doing big things over in BKFC. Yeah, he's built for that sport. I'm going to kind of switch gears a little bit. This question I ask a lot of fighters. Do you actually like the process of fighting? Do you enjoy fighting? I was talking with Ed Herman about this. People like George St. Pierre talk about, throwing up, before fights, and just really not enjoying any part of the process of it. But yeah, for you, what is it like, and do you actually enjoy fighting? It's kind of weird. So it's like a sandwich. So I love the preparation. I love getting ready for the fight. I love getting in the best shape of my life. I like the media attention. I like talking in front of a camera. I love all that shit. I love the the promotion of a fight. I can't wait till one day I can start talking some shit to these guys, because every guy I've been fighting is super nice, and I'm nice guy. But I love that piece. I don't like the lead up to the fight. I don't like being in the back room. I don't really like just sitting there chilling. I'm ultra confident, but as soon as that cage door closes, that's when I'm that's my favorite part.
because it's really weird. Like my mind, I'm nervous and I'm like going through all these steps in my brain about like what's going on, and then once I get into the cage, everything becomes super calm and like I train every day, and so as soon as I step on those mats, I realize it's just another sparring session. It's just now I get 4-ounce gloves and I really get to hurt this guy, and I don't have to hold back. In training camp, you're like going and you don't want to hurt your partner, you're pulling punches, but once you're in there, you can just let it fly, and I fucking love that.
It's kind of like you just like let the training take over. I feel like at that point, all the hard work is done, and and now you get to get paid for that 15 minutes that you're locked in that cage.
100%, and then it's just reactions. It's super simple. There's no thinking. I love it. Like it's just all reactions. You're just doing your thing, and I love beating people down and breaking people.
And I know, like I said, undefeated in the UFC right now. Talk about your journey to the UFC. I know you were on The Ultimate Fighter. Talk about the what you remember from being on The Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah, so I was 21, and this was like during COVID era. And so they had just started opening back up. And if you guys remember, the UFC was like the leader in sports about broadcasting during COVID. And so they decided to do The Ultimate Fighter, and I got picked, and I was on Team Volkanovski. But it was way different than any other stories I've heard of The Ultimate Fighter, because we got there a week early, and so we were quarantined in the hotel room the week before we even knew we were getting on the show. So there was like a bunch of us, and they picked like 16 out of like 24 of us. And so we were in this like hotel room, and we were only allowed to leave our hotel room for 2 hours a day. 1 hour was to go to like the gym inside the hotel room, and the other hour was to go run like around, like the neighborhood or whatever. But we weren't allowed to leave. And so we were just locked in a hotel room, which cutting weight kind of sucked because they brought us whatever food we wanted. So we're just sitting there watching TV and eating food. But that was kind of a cool experience. Then you get picked, you say your goodbyes, they take away your phone, they take away any communication with the outside world, and you pretty much go in this little bubble. And Volkanovski was my coach, Craig Jones was one of my coaches, Frank Hickman was one of my coaches, and the whole experience changed my life, so I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, I know you fought, what's the other guy from Spokane? Josh Reddinghouse.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I one of the things I always said was I always wish that they would have, like, built that storyline a little bit more. I'm big into, like, building fight storylines, and, you had two guys coming from Spokane on the same show fighting, and I feel like they didn't really, like, capture the entire story of what actually was going down.
I think they missed a few marks on the whole season, because there was some funny ass moments that weren't shown. There was like, obviously that was like a big piece that they could have elaborated on, but there's only so much you can fit into like a 30-minute episode. But
for sure. And I mean, you had a war. I mean, each of your Ultimate Fighter fights were just like back and forth wars. Like I feel like your career, every single fight, I feel like it's never an easy fight. It always seems like it's you're going in there, you're dealing damage, you're taking damage, and you earn every single victory that you go out there and get.
Yeah, I think it's because I got into the UFC so young. I had 5 pro fights going into the UFC. I was 22 years old, and I'm still only 25 years old, and so I think there's a lot of growing, and I've not got an easy fight. So I've been fighting some killers, all at least 3 or 4, 5 years older than me, some even 10, 12 years older than me. So it's been I've been growing up in the UFC, and so now we're starting to create a stride. I've been able to finish the last 2 guys, got a bonus my last fight, and so next fight we're going to go out there, we're going to just dominate, and we're going to come away with another bonus.
Was there a difference going from the Ultimate Fighter to your first UFC fight? Was there a lot of pressure, and like, do you remember like the moment of okay, now this is the big show?
100%. I think it wasn't even the fact that it was the big show. A big thing you hear a lot is it's easy to get to the UFC, it's hard to stay. And so I got to the UFC, and I took 2 L's after that fight. Not only did I lose a split decision to Ricky, but I had my first ACL surgery. So I had to sit for a year on a loss and recovering from ACL surgery, and you never know what's going to happen coming back from like a extreme surgery like that, being out for 13 months. And so I knew like coming back, I had to go and get this win, just because you don't, in this career, nothing's ever guaranteed. I could go out there and I could just bomb, and they're like, dude, this guy sucks, and then you're out. And so I felt more pressure on that Fernie fight, just in the fact I had to go out there and get the win and perform just to keep my job, kind of a thing. And so I did. I went out there and I dominated the fight. Probably my least exciting fight out of all my fighting career, but dominant victory, won every round, and so I was happy about it.
Yeah, I think the UFC is such a what have you done for me lately kind of sport. It's like, man, people forget, you take these massive layoffs. It's like, you go out there and it's like, do people remember who I am and what
I think that's the biggest thing is like, you come off and you have all this hype on the Ultimate Fighter, and then like you said, it's people got short-term memory. Like, I didn't even know if anyone was going to remember my name. I was going out there and I was like, I got to remind people who I am, why I'm here, all this stuff. And so I just didn't want to, you don't want to be forgotten. And so there's a lot of ways you can keep relevancy. And so going out there and getting a win is the main thing.
For sure, the resume. And you're active on social media. You do a lot. You put your face out there. So you understand the part of promoting yourself and trying to get these followers up and creating engaging content and stuff like that. Talk about, what you do to promote yourself, because I know there's a fine line. Obviously, you have your Chael Sonnens who kind of go over the top, pro wrestling style, promoting themselves. And then you have your Conor McGregor who was able to just make it seem so real. And then you have your like Colby Covington and, these larger than life characters I feel like that these people play. But how do you promote yourself?
That's a good question. I think I'm still figuring it out, but I'm learning along the way. But I'm making sure that I'm like just documenting my process. I'm trying to show the world who I am, and I know once I'm able to crack that code and get my name out there and kind of show people who I am, I feel like it's gonna take off from there, and people are gonna love me. I want to be genuine, but I'm not bullshitting. I'm here to fight. I'm here to put on performances, entertain. That's just my main thing. I'm looking to entertain.
And you're not like a talk shit about your opponent kind of guy. You're very respectful. Have you ever been in a fight where there was animosity or anything like that?
Not yet. I'm actually looking forward to that. I'm looking forward for someone to maybe like show a little disrespect, because I don't take disrespect. I'm not gonna dish it out for no reason. But if someone's going to talk shit to me, you're going to hear it back for sure.
What is like one moment for you in the UFC that like stands out above all the others? The massive win against Dana, blood running down your face. I remember the moments after that fight with you and Chiesa kind of sharing, a moment backstage. Is there anything in your career up to this point that kind of stands out above the rest?
It's actually funny. I'm going to circle back to the Josh Reddinghouse fight, because I think that was like the most pivotal like moment in my career, because like you go from fighting on the regional scene with like not like the toughest guys in the world. Like you can find some tough guys, but like they're not like great, and you like beat them, but you don't really know how good you are. Like I always knew in my heart that I was a dog. I was going to go out there and fight, but I didn't know how good I was. But when I fought Josh, who was kind of a legend from Spokane, he fought on PFL, fought Marlon Moraes to decision. He was probably one of the guys that was supposed to win the show. And then I go out there and I dominate him the first round and a half, and then I get a little gas, but then I pull it out and I still win the third round. That gave me so much confidence, because I'm like, if I can beat this dude, I can beat anyone. I'm 21 years old. I can fuck up anybody. And I only have time to grow. And I'm 26, and I'm not even in my prime. And I feel like I'm already like almost like veteran status in a slight way. The fact that I've had 3 wins, I've like finished 2 fights, got a bonus, all this different things, and I'm only getting better. And so that gave me a lot of confidence, and just knew that my place was in the UFC, and the fact that I could go fuck these dudes up.
Yeah, the 135. 135. How's the process cutting to 135? I know you're massive in there at 135.
Yeah.
Eventually, I think you'll make the jump up to 145. But I think you're like top 5 at 135. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of like a scary thing to maybe move up, and you don't know where you stand in the division at that point. But talk to me about what you think about the 135-pound division, and what it's been like, making those cuts to 135.
Yeah, so like I said, I got in the UFC when I was 21, so it's progressively getting harder. And so when I was 21, like even back when I turned pro, when I was like 18, I was walking like 153, And so the cut to 135 was super easy. So people that don't know, they're like, oh, that's like almost 20 pounds, but that's actually not that much in the whole scheme of things. And so after my first surgery, I got to like 165, and so I was riding 165 for a little bit. And I'm like, okay, these cuts are a little tougher. I look a little bit bigger than what I am, and so it was doable, manageable. It still took a lot of effort, like 3-month camp, and now I'm like even bigger. I'm like 170, and so the cuts are gonna get harder. We'll see. I'll go until I can't, because like you said, I'm on a 3-fight win streak, so it's like, why would I leave a division I'm having so much success in?
Yeah.
Just to like miss a few meals here and there, and then having to do a water cut. It's worth it to me for the success, but definitely at some point I'll probably go up.
You don't look like completely dead on the scale either. Like, you look like you're doing it the right way, and having Dylan, I'm sure is a big part of that. But yeah, what do you think about the 135-pound division? I know you got big name guys. You got your Sugar Sean O'Malley. Big fights for you potentially in that division. But yeah, what's your overall thoughts just right now on the 135-pound division?
Yeah, I think I'll fight anybody in the 135. I've trained with champions. I've trained with a lot of really good guys. And I feel really confident when I go with all these guys. So I think in the future, I think I'm going to come back. I'm going to get a good fight. I don't anticipate anyone ranked, but I think after that I start going to the ranked, start fighting some legends, and that's really where I think I'm going to make my name, is beating these guys like Jose Aldo, like you said, Sugar Sean at some point. I feel like confident. Jose Aldo never gets taken down. He went against that fight with Mario Batista and was like able to defend, but I know I could get Mario Batista down and I could cause some damage, if not submit him. So I want to go out there and prove that I can fuck these guys up.
That's like kind of, I feel like the Chase Hooper blueprint right now, where he's going out and he's finishing these really legends of the sport. Just kind of build your name, build that resume. What do you think your path looks like to once you make that return? I don't know what your conversations are like with the matchmakers and stuff like that, but do they kind of know what they're going to do with you once you're ready to come back?
I don't think it's really hard, because the environment's always changing, right?
Yeah.
Every fight someone wins and someone loses, and completely changes their whole career. So you can't look too far ahead. You got to go and focus on that fight, get that win, and then you can start game planning. Because like, there was guys that I was gonna fight, like Rinya Nakamura. I was slated to fight him, and then I got injured, and then that fight fell out, and now he's coming off a bad win and now a loss. And so we're definitely not going to fight in the next foreseeable future. And then there's guys like Damon who lost, and I'm like, oh, damn it, I'm not going to fight Damon. But then he won. So it's always changing. So like, really, I don't have an idea until you get to the top 15. So there's so many guys outside the top 15. There's like 20 guys in the division that aren't ranked. And so I could fight any one of those dudes. And I honestly don't care. Just give me a good fight, something that's going to be entertaining, and I'll, at the end of the day, I'm going to make it entertaining, because I don't know how to be in a boring fight. I go out there and make it funny. If I dominate and finish you in the first round, or we're going to have a scrap, but the goal is to dominate and one more win, shoot for the top 15, and then start taking out legends from there.
Oh yeah, and I know you have a really close relationship with Mike Chiesa. Chiesa's all over the UFC broadcasts. It seems like every other weekend. Talk about your relationship with Chiesa and what his role has been in building you in your career.
Yeah, he's like the ultimate uncle of Sik Jitsu. Like he's helped me with a lot of things, anything from weight cut. Obviously, like giving me a lot of advice on the Ultimate Fighter and stuff like that, and he's the ultimate shit talker. I feel like I'm his favorite guy to pick on, just because like I have a lot of weight to cut. He does, like, I've got injured, so he's always talking shit in like a big brother kind of a way. So to have him around is like the ultimate cheat code. He's got all the connections, and he's also just like a wealth of knowledge. He's fought more than anyone I know in the UFC. Like, he's been around, his Ultimate Fighter season was like over 13 years ago, which is crazy to think about. So he's the ultimate veteran, and not only is he a veteran, but he's had so much success. And so just to have someone like that in your corner is huge. And he's been in every one of my UFC fights. He's been in my corner.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know big fight event coming up tomorrow. Rick Little's promotion out at Northern Quest. You'll be there. If
100%.
anybody is interested, Airway Heights, Northern Quest, you want to meet Brady Hiestand, he'll be there. Do you have anybody you're going to be quartering that night, or who should we be on the lookout?
Yeah, I got two of my main guys that helped me with all my camps, really. Alex Gonzalez, I think he's going to be the main event against Matt Christ, and so that's going to be a really good fight. He's a really good wrestler. He's got good hands, too. He's got the sprawl and brawl kind of fighting style, so it's going to be entertaining watching him. He's fighting another good wrestler, so that one's going to be fireworks. That's the main event, and then we got my buddy Caden Shaw, who's been around forever. He was a state champion wrestler, and he's helped me with all my camps. He's been one of my main training partners, and he's doing big things, so I expect a lot out of him.
Hell yeah. Yeah, Caden is a savage. I could definitely see him getting to the big show soon. What do you enjoy the other aspects of the fight game? I know you've been out for a little while, so it's, you got to kind of, I feel like, find different parts of the game that you can kind of latch onto and be a part of, broadcasting or whatever it may be, Do you enjoy all aspects of the fight game?
100%, yeah. Like, my first job ever when I was 15, I was coaching jiu-jitsu. And so I was teaching little kids all the way up to, old retired guys. And so I loved, like, the coaching aspect. But the main thing I like doing is, like, going to the fights and cornering my guys. Seeing them have success and watching them do big things, just like I did when I in early in my career. It's cool to have like a team that's growing. Like, it's such an individual sport, but you can't do this without a team, and so I think that's really important.
Absolutely, I feel like MMA is such a pass it down to the next generation type of sport, and you had guys like Chiesa and some big name guys, and so you kind of have to pass that down to the next generation. And are you more nervous for your fighters when they go in or for yourself?
100% when someone else goes in. Like I said, I wouldn't be where I'm at without like Mike Chiesa or Juliana Pena or like Sam Cilia or these guys. And so when I go and corner these guys, for some reason, like, it's so much easier if it's all on me. If I'm going to go out and fight, I get to go out there and I know the work I put in, all this stuff. And when you have someone else go out there and fight, like, there's so much unknown. Anything could happen in a fist fight, especially with 4-ounce gloves. Someone could get knocked out. There could be a random like sub catch. And so when you go watch these guys fight, you have so much anxiety because you're out of control. You did all. It's like a parent. Like, once you send them out, like, you have no control anymore, right? Like, not that I'm like the coach or anything, but same difference. Like, we've trained together, and now you have no control. You just get to go and see them perform, and you never know. Like, there's guys that train every day, twice a day, and somehow they just can't perform.
Right.
And then there's guys that you show up once a week and you're like, this guy's gonna get messed up, and then he goes out there and then puts on a highlight reel performance. So there's just like the unknown that you can't train for.
Yeah.
You got to just let them go be them, and hopefully it works out.
And some people just, when the lights are the brightest, that's when they come out and they perform. I feel like Kai Stewart is one of those guys, like, when the lights are on, he's going to go out there and he's going to put on a show.
For sure. Like our buddy Jay Ortega, he's one of those guys that once the lights go on, he just like goes out there and does his thing.
Might not be the most technical or, best in certain areas, but man, when the lights are on, they're going to show up and show out. I guess last thing for me, what's on the horizon? What's the goal for you right now? Obviously rehabbing and getting back healthy. But yeah, what can fans expect and look out for Brady Bam Bam Hiestand?
I'm looking into maybe doing a couple grappling matches at some point. Maybe get one in before my fight. But the main thing and the main focus is I want to fight twice this year. So I'm hoping to get one in August and then hopefully get a turnaround, maybe fight in December. But just know it's going to be an entertaining fight. I'm never in a boring fight. I always go out there and I show out. And I'm going to keep rattling up this wins, make that fucking money, and hopefully get ranked here soon. Hell
yeah. Well, good luck with everything, man. I firmly believe you are, top 5 in the UFC at 135, and I can see you getting there, man. I can see you winning that UFC title, and you still have such a long path, and you're still so young, and so yeah, thank you for doing this, and yeah, that's about it.
Hell yeah, we're bringing another belt back to Spokane one of these days.
Let's do it, man. Thank you for coming on. We're at the Mo campus, this crazy facility. I know you're doing rehab here at the BPI.
Yeah.
What do you think about the Mode campus?
Dude, it's literally, it doesn't seem real sometimes. Like, you guys got everything here. Like, I was over getting physical therapy by one of the best doctors in the area. And so we were working on that. And then I was like, they were like, oh, you want to do a podcast? And I'm like, sure, let's go do a podcast. And I'm like, hey, can I go get some food really quick? Ran over to the cafe, got a BLT, ate a little bit before I got here. And then, you know, if I wanted to, I could go get a lift in over at the CrossFit Center. You know, even if I wanted to, I could go do a little ballet or some dance classes. They got everything here. This is like the hub for any activities you want to do.
Yeah.
On top of that, there's a school upstairs.
Yeah.
There's
wild. It's crazy. We have big name people coming in here, so every time we have somebody big come in here, I'm like, hey, we got to get some content, get them in the podcast studio. Of course, UFC vet. You know, I've been doing the MMA thing, filming for a lot of these up and coming athletes, so I'm getting more involved in the sport and more involved in the community out here, and so had you on the campus, had to get you in here.
Hey, I appreciate you having me. This is awesome.
Cool. Well, Brady Bam Hiestand coming back to the UFC, Northern Quest Casino tomorrow night, Saturday, if you're seeing this, if it hasn't happened already. But yeah, thank you. It's Great Bambi 42, and we're out.
Let's go.
Cool. Boom.